Welcome. In this video, we'll be talking about creating charts in Excel, and this is part of the last 3 videos, which is a series on understanding charts, the elements behind them, and formatting them. So first of all, we're going to be talking about the charting process, including the logical steps we have to go through to figure out what is the best chart for any set of data. Now, there's not one constant rule for how to create the best chart. It really depends on who the audience is, what the data looks like, and what the message you're trying to convey. So you have to consider all those points and make a judgment. But what we're going to do is we're going to work through an example over here with a set of data and go through the different charts that we could possibly create. Okay, so let's jump right into it. So in this example, we're using the same data set as we did before. So we've got different categories of inventory over here, and we've got the selling price, the purchase price, and the value of stock. Now, I guess the first question is, what are the key information that we want to convey to management? I guess the first thing is they'll probably want to know about the performance of each of the different product lines, so A, B, and C. Okay, so that's the first thing. So we probably want to set our data out to reflect A, B, and C. The next thing we probably want to show is maybe what's our selling price in aggregate. So we may need to insert a new column over here. So this is our selling price. Let's put this over here. So our selling price, or our revenue, I'm going to call it, is this value over here. And our purchase price is this times 0.2. Actually, to make it a little bit more interesting, I'm going to put some random values in there so we can represent this. So we're going to do in between, so we're going to have a COGS margin of, say, equals rand between, this is creating a random data set, between, let's say, 0.1 and 0.3. So this is going to create a random set of percentages between 0.1, a random data set of COGS percentages for each of these products. So what we're buying it for, this is how much money is coming in, this much money is how much is going out. And the difference between the two is going to be our gross profit. So it's going to be the difference between our revenue and our COGS. Okay, so some of the key things is, management probably wants to know how much revenue we're generating from each of the products. Management probably wants to know what our gross profit is for each of the products in aggregate. And then maybe they want to rank the worst and best performing products by both of those as well. So maybe if we create a list down here from number 1, and we're going to hold down the control key and drag that down to, we'll do worst 5 for revenue as well, and GP. Okay, so let's focus on getting the data in here so we can create our charts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a sum if, and then I'm going to select our product name over here, and then our criteria is this letter here, and our revenue is this one here. Okay, and then I'm going to lock all of these. F. Okay, okay, perfect. All right, so there's our revenue, and then what I'm going to do at the end is I'm just going to total it as well, just so I can do a sense check to make sure that this sum is equal to the sum of the revenue, and if it doesn't, there's an error that we haven't added up something correctly. Okay, let's see what we've done wrong. So B is right, F is right. So we're going to add that one, we're going to add that one, and we're going to sum, oh, that's why, because it's U, not C. U. Okay, cool, perfect. So it all checks out. There's our total and our check. Okay. And then we can do the same for gross profit, except gross profit is going to be sum-ifing from this column over here. And then we're going to drag this down, going to paste formula so it doesn't override my formatting, going to copy the total formula, and this one too, except we need to drag this across to gross profit. Okay, and done, cool. All right, so there's our high level data. So what we're going to do is a very simple chart. So we're going to select this summary. Now we could equally do this just by selecting the column number and say revenue, or we can just select our chart like this. Either way, both are fine. I just prefer putting the table there because number one, I'm most likely going to use a table in my presentation anyway. And number two, it's just an easier way for me to select the data that I need. So I'm just going to select that little table there, and then I'm going to go Insert, and here we have all our options for different charts and things like that. So my general first approach is just to click on Recommended Charts. Now when I go in here, it's going to give me two options, Recommended Charts or All Charts. Recommended Charts, Excel gives us a few decent ideas for what we could possibly do. So there's no right answer as to what is the correct chart to put in your presentation. There are some general rules that you can follow as to what is appropriate and what isn't, but we'll talk about some of those. So generally what I do is I have a look through here, see if there's any good starting points for inspiration, then I'll look through all charts and then click on a few different combinations and see which I think tells the story the best. So maybe the first thing that we want to do is we want to look at this one. So this shows us, this is a bar chart, it's a horizontal bar chart, and it shows us in a horizontal manner which each of the product lines, how they're doing for gross profit and for revenue. So you can clearly see that product U has the most revenue, product B is not far behind, and product A is a fair bit behind. But in terms of margins, it looks like product U is actually generating fairly close gross profit to product B, despite being ahead in revenue, and A doesn't produce as much gross profit, but probably proportion to revenue, to its revenue, its gross profit's probably pretty high. So I think this is a good chart, tells a good story based on what I've just told you. So now what I did is I just inserted it by pressing OK. So there's our first chart. So it does need a fair bit of work done to it, but that's okay. Now let's go back and have a look at another chart just so we can get some other stories. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our recommended charts. So notice how I'm not selecting the total row as well, or I'm not selecting the check. The reason is, and I'll show you why, if I select the total row in there, the total is going to be picked up in the chart as well, and it means that everything else is going to be disproportionately small, and you're not actually going to see the appropriate scaling in there because the total is just going to be the sum of all of those, and it's going to make everything look fairly similar in size. Whereas when you look at this chart, you can see there's a big difference between B and A, and a very little difference between U and B, but in this you can't really tell. So that's why we don't select the total in our chart, but we do select the titles up here because that's the label that's going to go in as soon as we start editing, you know, what our chart label is and things like that. That's why this we populate, and that's the reason why A, B, and U are in there as well, is because we've got our x-axis and our y-axis just based on selecting those. Okay, so let's go back to our charts and have a look through our recommended charts. So there's nothing really in here that I like, so I'm going to go to the all charts as well. Okay, so we've already got a column chart. This is basically the same chart but just on a different direction. Again, it comes down to aesthetics. Would I choose a line chart? Probably not. Line charts are better for, you know, trend charts. So, you know, how are we trending in revenue over the last 6 months? You could do a trend line like that. That would be a really effective chart. But if we're just comparing 3 different product lines, the best kind of chart is a bar chart. But what we could probably show as a separate thing is a pie chart. And what this will show is the different compositions of each of those different product lines to make up the 100%. So now there's 2 options here, right? Because we can show our gross profit contribution and our GP percentage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create 2 different charts. So first of all, I'm just going to highlight revenue and the product, and then I'm going to insert a recommended chart and go to pie chart, or because I already know that I want a pie chart, we could just go straight to that label there. And we've got a few different options. We could go 2D, 3D, or donut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 3D pie chart. Okay, now I'm going to drag that over there. Now it doesn't have any labels or anything like that, but that's okay. We can fix that up later. We can get the aesthetics right later. And I want to do the same thing for gross profit this time. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to insert a pie chart just for gross profit. Okay, beautiful. Again, we'll make this look pretty and have all the relevant fields a little bit later, but I just want to finish this off with one more chart. So again, I don't necessarily need to know what the answer is right now. I'm just going to go have a look, and I like to think about the story as I'm doing that. So let's go back to recommended charts, go to all charts, and look at some of the other ones. Okay, so there's area. So again, area is similar to a line chart, so it's better for trend and things like that. So I wouldn't really use that when we're comparing three different types of charts. So XY scatter. I wouldn't really use this either, but potentially we could use it for something like the gross profit margin. Another consideration is, just because it doesn't make the most, profit on a dollar basis or a nominal basis, it might be the most profitable product per unit sold. And that's where the gross profit percentage comes in. So management might see a chart where we're looking at gross profit percentage and say, well, yes, we're making most of our money on gross profit, but it's taking us so much effort to make that extra money. Why don't we focus our efforts on selling the most profitable product per unit? We could sell more of those if we wanted to, and we make more profit if we allocated our time to that. So that's what I'm going to do as our third chart, is I'm going to add in gross profit percentage. So this is basically a measure of how profitable our product is. So basically, for every dollar of revenue for product A, we're going to have a 75.2% gross margin, and for product B, we're going to have a 81.2%, and product U, we're going to have a 82.4% margin. Okay, so we should be probably focusing on product U. And our average in total is this one here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do another chart and just focus on gross profit percentage. And we're going to do a recommended chart, see what it comes up with. No, I don't want a pie chart, because that's more if you want to see how does that comprise that out of total 100% sales. What I want to show is the different percentages on a chart. So something like this could be good. Or we could even use this scatter percentage. So that might be good there. None of these charts are very good. We could do... So really, to me, the only things that stand out are either a bar chart or an XY scatter. Now, I would probably avoid using a bar chart simply because we've used it already up here. And part of having a good presentation and good Excel PowerPoint skills is, and Excel skills is, making your presentation easy to read, easy to understand, looks good, looks professional. And part of that is understanding, what's the reader thinking? And the reader's probably going to be sick of looking at the same chart over and over. So this is a good way of breaking it up, but still having the message in a very clear and concise manner. So what I'm thinking with this one is I'm going to have labels which tell you which of the products are. So straight away, let's choose the product with the highest gross profit percentage. So whatever product that is, we're going to focus our efforts on that. Okay, so we've gone through the basics of how do you create a chart, how do you choose a right chart, and we've gone through the process of using a recommended chart or just starting a new chart from scratch. Let's go through some of the other basics. So resizing a chart. So let's say I want to make these a little bit smaller so that my page fits. So there's two areas that you can actually resize. There's the outside of the chart, right, which I've currently got selected here. That will resize everything inside the box. So that includes this diagram in here, it includes the text, it includes the title, and any other fields you've got in there. So that basically resizes everything. Just drag and drop that. But for example, if I want to make this area of the chart a little bit bigger to fit in, I can actually drag this area in here as well and make this a little bit bigger like so, and reorganize that. So there's a few different elements in here that you can actually resize and improve on. So I can move these around, I can make that bigger, or I can make the entire thing smaller, So that's resizing. So repositioning, again, similar process, so we can move the entire thing by selecting the outside, like so, or we can select each individual element and resize that and move that. So I can move this around, I can resize this and move that as well, like so. You can move the legend as well, So fairly straightforward. Now you can also change the chart type. Okay, so if I select up here and make this bigger and go to the chart design ribbon, which you'll see is in green because it's only accessible when you have something selected. Within this field, you can actually change the chart type. So this is basically, if we want to change this to a vertical bar chart, we can click here and we can go back and change this like so. You know, if you prefer to keep it that way, that's fine. You know, we can also switch row and column. So what that means is basically, because currently it's reading as these ones go on the x-axis, and if we want to change that around, let's see what happens. And our revenue is on the y-axis. If we press that button, it's going to switch them. So we're going to have revenue and GP. So this is just another way of looking at it. So we can look at revenue and say, okay, so product A, B, and U are making this much, and for gross profit it's this. So again, it really just depends on how you want to look at it. I think I prefer it the old way, so like this, because we want to look at each individual product line. Okay, so that's good. Okay, and then changing the chart layout and style. So how we do that is up here. So first of all, the layout. If we choose layout, Excel automatically gives us a few default options based on the current setup that we have. And it's a good way of choosing, you know, how you want your legend, whether you want labels, whether you're going to have an x-axis and things like that. So it's a good way of just instantly getting most of the basics done how you want it, and then you can manually override any further changes after that. So let's have a look at the bar chart. We can do a quick layout. We can have our legend on the right hand side. We can have no x-axis, so you can see that the value x-axis has disappeared, and just have our number layers there. You know, you can have a table down the bottom with your values. You can have, you know, you can have the background x-axis at different points, so you can kind of trace where it is. You can have zero overlap between each of the thresholds, and so forth. There's so many different options here. Just literally run your mouse over it and play around with what you think looks the best, and then we can make more changes after that. You know, let's have a look at this one over here now, so we can change it and we can have little labels on there. I like that one, that looks good. But you can also select one and then continue previewing them to see if there's one better. This one's got a linear line in there actually. Okay, so pretty interesting. I actually like the way that this one looks, but I kind of want data labels on them. But we can fix that later. But I like the way this one looks, so I'm going to choose that one. And I'm also going to resize this. If I can select the box, I'm having trouble selecting it. Oh well, we'll fix that later. Oh, there we go. Cool. And yeah, so that's basically the layout. You can do a quick, basically structural change, and we'll go into details of how you do those really small, minor stuff later in the next video. For design, so it also gives you some different design options over here. And a similar concept. It's just a visual thing now instead of structure. It's basically how it looks, whether it's pretty or not. So you can have something like this. You can have something like this. You can have something like this. I'm going to go with this because I kind of like the way it looks. And I'll add all the data labels and change the colors and stuff like that later. Right now I'm just going based on what I think looks good. That looks kind of cool too. That one looks alright. I think we'll stick with this one. Okay, so for the pie chart, again we can have a bit more of a cleaner look. That one looks pretty good. That one's okay. If I scroll up, there's some more options. This one's a bit of a more smooth one. I kind of like that one. So lighter one. This one's okay. Actually, I like this one. I'm going to choose this one, but I'm just going to quickly change the background as well. So we can do that quickly by going no fill. Yeah, I like it all white. Cool. I really like that one. And then I guess I'm going to have to make this one consistent as well. There's no point having two different styles of the same chart. That's going to look a bit amateurish. Okay, awesome. So there is our 4 charts that we're going to go with for this video. Okay, and then change the chart style. Okay, so the last point that we're going to go through on this introductory charts video is deleting a chart. So fairly straightforward, same way you delete any other data. Just select the relevant chart or charts that you want to delete, select them, and then you press delete on your keyboard, and now they have gone. but I'm going to undo that because I'm going to keep working on these charts in the next video, which is talking about the elements of the chart and how do you actually change those. So basically what this is the more sophisticated stuff that we're going to get to the exact perfect look and story. Anyway, I will see you in the next video.